The morning in Maplewood began like any other. The smell of roasted coffee drifted through the small cafe on Main Street, the kind of place where people came not just for caffeine but for company. The regulars were there, Maya with her tablet, Derek with his newspaper, and Lena behind the counter, humming to herself as she wiped down the tables. Outside, the sun cut through the cold air, and the quiet rhythm of everyday life went on, until the phones started buzzing. It began with one notification, then another, then dozens more. Screens lit up with the same headline, flashing across every feed and app. Just in, Schumer forced to resign after Supreme Court drops nightmare news. The words were bold, urgent, and loud, exactly the kind that made people stop scrolling and stare. For a moment, the cafe froze in collective confusion. Derek was the first to react. "Whoa, did you guys see this?" he said, his voice cutting through the low hum of conversation. He turned his phone around to show Maya, the bold red headline glowing on the screen. "It's all over social media. Looks like something big just happened." Maya frowned. She was a high school civics teacher, the kind who double-checked every article before believing it. "That can't be right," she said, scanning the words carefully. "Forced to resign? I haven't seen anything on the major outlets yet." Derek shrugged, half excited, half skeptical. "Maybe the big outlets are late. This stuff moves fast now. You can't always wait for the news cycle." Within minutes, the story became the talk of the cafe. Two college students by the window were whispering about it, each trying to guess what nightmare news could mean. The retired librarian at the back adjusted her glasses and muttered something about how journalism used to have standards. Even Lena, the usually quiet barista, pulled out her phone and checked the feed. "What's it about?" she asked, scrolling quickly. "Is it real?" "No idea," Maya said, still tapping through links that led nowhere solid. Every site's quoting another site, but no one's showing proof. It's all recycled headlines. Derek leaned back in his chair, frustrated. "Well, something must have happened. This many people can't be wrong." Maya looked up, meeting his eyes. "That's exactly how people get fooled, Derek. The number of shares doesn't make it true." Their brief exchange sparked something larger. The people around them began talking, each voice carrying a different tone. Doubt, curiosity, excitement, anger. A young man near the counter claimed it was another political cover-up. A woman scrolling nearby said she'd seen the same site post fake news before. The cafe, once filled with soft chatter and the hiss of the espresso machine, had turned into a buzzing room full of debate. Lena, feeling the tension, tried to lighten the mood. "It's just one headline," she said, pouring fresh coffee. "Give it an hour, and something else will trend." It always does, but Maya wasn't so sure. She'd seen how fast rumors could spread, especially among her students. "The problem is, people believe it first and question it later," she said quietly. "By the time the truth comes out, the damage is already done." The retired librarian nodded in agreement. "Back in my day, we had editors," she said. "Now everyone with Wi-Fi thinks they're a reporter." Derek tapped his fingers on the table, restless. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," he countered. "The internet gives regular people a voice. It's not just the elites controlling what we hear." "That's true," Maya said, choosing her words carefully. "But freedom without facts becomes chaos. We need both." Their conversation caught the attention of a few nearby customers who began to chime in. One student mentioned how her professor warned that fake headlines often use emotional language, words like forced, secret, or nightmare, to trigger instant reactions. Another customer said he didn't care whether it was real or not. He just liked knowing what everyone was talking about. That comment made Maya sigh. The cafe had turned into a small mirror of the modern world. People connected by technology, divided by interpretation. Nobody had verified anything, yet everyone felt the pull to have an opinion. The speed of it all was dizzying. One moment it was just a headline. The next it was a topic shaping moods, friendships, and trust. Lena glanced at the wall clock. "It's not even 10 a.m., and we're already arguing about politics," she said, half amused. "Not politics," Maya corrected. "Truth." The room fell quiet for a moment. Outside, a delivery truck rumbled by, and the cafe lights flickered as if reacting to the strange tension in the air. Everyone returned to their screens, still searching, still refreshing, each hoping to be the first to know something real. Then, like a domino effect, a few more posts appeared. Videos, screenshots, reactions, but still no confirmation. Some claimed inside sources, others used dramatic music and flashing words. The line between news and noise blurred by the second. Derek's confidence began to fade. "You think this could actually be fake?" he asked. "Not just fake," Maya said softly. "Designed to make you feel before you think." He didn't reply right away. For the first time, Derek looked uneasy, scrolling slower now, reading the comments instead of just the headlines. People were arguing in every thread, some angry, some confused, many simply repeating the same claim. The librarian stood up to leave, shaking her head. "I've seen this before," she said, tucking her scarf around her neck. "A rumor can travel halfway around the world before the truth gets its shoes on." As she left, her words lingered in the air like a quiet warning. Lena refilled Maya's cup and said, "You think people will ever stop falling for this stuff?" Maya smiled sadly. "Probably not, but maybe they'll start slowing down. That's where it starts." Derek looked at her thoughtfully. Slowing down in a world that never stops? That's a challenge. He wasn't wrong. The cafe returned to its normal rhythm, but something had changed. The laughter was softer, the scrolling slower. The headlines still flashed on every phone, but now it felt different. Less like news, more like a test. Outside, the morning light grew brighter, washing over the storefront windows. Inside, the people of Maplewood sat in quiet reflection, caught between curiosity and caution. They didn't know it yet, but this moment, this single viral headline, wasn't about politics at all. It was about how easily truth could be shaken, and how ordinary people, sitting in ordinary places, had to decide what to believe in a world that moved too fast for certainty. By noon, the cafe had turned into a quiet storm of opinions. The headlines still glowed on everyone's screens, but now the shock had faded, and something deeper was surfacing. Frustration, mistrust, confusion. What began as curiosity had become a full-blown argument about truth itself. Derek leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "See? This is what I'm saying," he told Maya. "People don't trust the big networks anymore. They all push their own angle. So when something like this drops, folks believe it because at least it sounds like someone's finally telling the truth." Maya set her cup down slowly. "But what truth?" she asked. "If you don't check where it came from, you're just believing whatever sounds right to you. That's not truth. That's comfort." Across the cafe, 2 college students overheard them. One of them, a journalism major named Eli, joined in. "She's right," he said. "My professor says misinformation spreads because it gives people what they already want to believe. That headline is designed to do exactly that. Trigger emotion, not thought." Derek smirked. "And the professor works for who? Some media foundation, probably? You all sound the same. Defending the same institutions that messed things up in the first place." Eli shrugged, trying to stay calm. "I'm just saying, we can't give up on facts. Otherwise, everyone's just yelling their own version of the world." At the counter, Lena, the barista, listened while steaming milk. She didn't usually join debates, but today the tension was everywhere. "I get both sides," she said softly. "My mom watches the news on TV every night, and my brother gets everything from short videos online. They argue all the time about what's real. Sometimes it feels like they live in 2 different countries under the same roof." Maya nodded. "That's happening everywhere. We're drowning in information, but starving for understanding." Derek sighed, rubbing his temple. "Yeah, but that's because everyone wants to control the story. Look at what's happening. Every article, every clip, it's all filtered. You can't even tell what's edited anymore. At least online, people speak their minds." Eli leaned back. "Sure, but when everyone's shouting, nobody's listening. Social media gives people a voice, yes, but it also gives a megaphone to lies." That sentence made the room quiet again. A few customers looked up from their phones. The word lies carried a weight no one wanted to hold. Derek broke the silence. "So what's the answer then? Wait for the so-called trusted sources? By the time they report, the story's over. People want to know now." "That's the trap," Maya replied. "Speed over accuracy. We react, not reflect. And the worst part? The people spreading fake news count on that." Her voice wasn't angry. It was tired, like someone who had said the same thing too many times. Derek noticed that tone and softened. "You really think it's that bad?" Maya gave a small, knowing smile. "I teach teenagers, Derek. They see something online and believe it instantly. They trust random influencers more than experts. And when I try to show them proof, they think I'm the one being fooled." Lena nodded. "My brother's the same. He once told me the moon landing was fake because he saw a video with proof. He believed it more than anything I said." Eli laughed under his breath, though it wasn't really funny. "That's the thing. Misinformation feels personal. It makes people feel smart, like they've uncovered a secret others can't see. It's addictive." Derek sat back, staring at his phone. "So what, we're all just puppets now?" "No," Maya said, "but we need to take responsibility. It's not just the media's job to be honest. It's our job to be careful." That sentence landed differently. Even the people who hadn't been part of the conversation were now listening. It wasn't about politics anymore. It was about how each person handled the truth. Outside, cars passed by, horns echoing faintly. The world kept moving, unaware that inside this small cafe, a quiet battle of ideas was unfolding. Lena poured more coffee, trying to shake the heaviness in the air. "You know what I think?" she said, placing the pot down. "People don't actually want facts. They want stories, something that makes them feel right or scared or important. It's not about truth. It's about emotion," Eli pointed at her. "Exactly. That's why headlines like this work. They don't inform, they perform." Derek looked confused. "Perform?" "Yeah," Eli explained. "They're like actors, designed to grab attention, not to tell the full story. The headline becomes the show, and the truth gets buried backstage." Maya smiled faintly. "And most people never look past the curtain." For a moment, the cafe felt like a classroom. Everyone thinking hard but too proud to admit it. Derek checked his phone again, scrolling through the comment section of one post. "Look at this," he said, turning it toward them. "Thousands of people fighting over something none of them can prove." Maya leaned in, reading a few lines. "See the pattern? The comments aren't about facts. They're about feelings. That's how manipulation works. Once people are emotional, they'll defend anything." Lena crossed her arms. "So what do we do? Stop reading the news?" "Not stop," Maya said. "Just slow down. Question before you share. Think before you react. Truth needs time, lies thrive on speed." The clock ticked louder than usual. Someone opened the cafe door, letting in a burst of cold air. It felt like the real world outside was moving much faster than the one inside. Derek sighed. "I get what you're saying, but you make it sound easy. We're busy. We scroll between jobs, bills, family. No one's got time to fact-check everything." Maya didn't argue. She understood. That was the hard part. People wanted truth, but they also wanted convenience. The two rarely came together. Eli stood to leave for class. "You know," he said, "it's not about being right anymore. It's about being responsible. We're all part of the system now, whether we admit it or not." As the door closed behind him, his words lingered. Lena looked around the room. Strangers now quiet, heads bowed over their phones, each one scrolling through an ocean of opinions. She wondered how many of them were reading the same fake headline that started all of this. Maya took a deep breath. "It's strange," she said. "We've never had so much information in history, and yet we've never been more unsure." Derek looked up. "You think that'll ever change?" She shook her head. "Only if people want it to." The bell above the door rang again as a new customer walked in, phone in hand, showing the same headline to a friend. The cycle continued. The debate never really ended. It just moved from one table to another, one post to another, one generation to the next. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, the truth waited, patient, quiet, and unseen, hoping someone, somewhere, would take the time to find it. The next morning, Maplewood woke up to another wave of noise. The same headline was still circulating, now edited with brighter colors, louder words, and a new thumbnail showing a grim photo that didn't even match the story. It had reached every corner of the internet. Group chats, message boards, short videos, even local gossip. What started as one post had become a digital wildfire. Maya woke up early and opened her laptop, determined to find out where it came from. As a teacher, she couldn't stand letting her students live in confusion. She typed the headline into a search bar, only to find dozens of identical articles. None had proper sources, each one linked to another, creating a circle of echoes. She checked fact-checking sites, news archives, even the official pages of the people mentioned. Nothing. The Supreme Court had released no new statements, and Schumer hadn't resigned. The nightmare news didn't exist. She sighed, both relieved and frustrated. "It's all fake," she muttered to herself. The realization didn't make her happy. It made her tired. How could something false spread faster than anything real? At the same time, Derek sat in his truck outside the cafe, scrolling through his phone. He'd spent half the night reading comments and videos about the headline. Some people swore it was true, others called it lies. The arguments had gone in circles, and by the end he felt more confused than before. He looked up and saw Maya walking toward the cafe, holding her tablet. He waved. "You look like you've been up all night," he said. "I was," she replied, "and I found something you should see." They sat at their usual table, and Maya turned the screen toward him. "It's fake," she said flatly. "Every part of it. The source is a site that copies old articles and changes the titles to make them sound shocking. Then bots share them to make it go viral." Derek frowned. "Bots?" "Yes," Maya said. "Automated accounts pretending to be real people. They share posts to make them look popular. Once enough people see it, they start believing it must be true. Then real people spread it even faster. Derek leaned back, rubbing his neck. That's crazy. So all those comments I read, they weren't even real people? Some were, she said, but most just repeated what they saw. It's like a chain reaction. One spark and the whole internet catches fire. Lena walked over with their coffee. You guys still talking about that headline? She asked. My aunt called me last night swearing it was true. She said she saw a video about it with millions of views. It's fake, Maya said again, almost tired of saying it. And the video's probably using the same recycled pictures and dramatic music. They do it to make people click. Lena sighed. It worked. Everyone's talking about it. My group chat blew up last night. People were sending links, arguing nonstop. I had to mute my phone. Derek stared at the table. You know what's weird? He said quietly. When I first saw it, I didn't even think about checking if it was true. It just felt true, like it fit the world I already believe in. Maya nodded. That's exactly why it works. They write it to match your expectations. It's not about truth, it's about emotion. They sell outrage because outrage clicks faster than reason. Lena crossed her arms. But how can anyone fight that? If people don't slow down, the lies win. By caring, Maya said. By refusing to be lazy about truth. For a few minutes, none of them spoke. Outside, the morning traffic rolled by, the world moving fast while they sat in quiet thought. Derek broke the silence first. You know, I used to think the media was the enemy, he said. But now I think the real enemy is confusion. You can't fight what you can't see. Maya smiled slightly. Exactly. Confusion is a weapon now. The more divided we are, the easier we are to control. Lena frowned. Control? By who? By whoever benefits from the noise, Maya said. It doesn't have to be one person. Sometimes it's just companies making money off clicks. Sometimes it's people pushing their agendas. Sometimes it's just chaos for the sake of chaos. Derek looked at her tablet again. So you're saying we're all part of it? Every time we share something without checking, we're feeding it? Yes, she said simply. We all have a piece of responsibility. The problem isn't just that lies exist. It's that we keep giving them power. He nodded slowly, feeling the weight of that truth. As they talked, more customers came in, chatting loudly about the same headline. Some were convinced it was real. Others dismissed it as nonsense. It was the same pattern repeating. Outrage, denial, confusion, repeat. Maya realized the conversation in the cafe mirrored the internet itself. Suddenly, a young man sitting nearby spoke up. He had been listening quietly. I looked it up too, he said. She's right. It's not real. The original photo they used in the post is from 2015. From a completely different story. Lena raised her eyebrows. Seriously? He nodded. I study digital media. Misinformation is like pollution. It spreads everywhere, and cleaning it up takes way more effort than creating it. Derek looked at him and chuckled. That's the best description I've heard all day, Maya smiled. He's right. Cleaning it up means people have to care enough to do the work. Check sources, verify dates, read past the headlines. But people are tired, busy, distracted. Lies fit better in the gaps of attention. Lena leaned on the counter. So what happens now? Do we just move on until the next fake story? That's the sad part, Maya said. Probably. But maybe, if we talk about it like this, someone learns to think twice next time. Maybe that's how change starts. One person at a time. The cafe quieted again. The energy had shifted, not angry or divided anymore, but reflective. It wasn't about proving who was right. It was about realizing how fragile truth had become in a world that moved too fast to hold on to it. Derek looked outside at the people walking by, each with a phone in hand. You know, he said, the internet was supposed to make us smarter, but it feels like we're drowning in our own voices. Maybe we just forgot how to listen, Maya said softly. He nodded. Yeah, listening. That's rare these days. The young man near them smiled faintly. Funny thing is, truth doesn't shout, it whispers. You have to want to hear it. Those words lingered. For a moment, everyone stopped scrolling, stopped refreshing, just thinking. The fake headline was still trending somewhere out there, still being shared, still feeding the fire. But here, in this little cafe, 3 people and a stranger had done something unusual. They'd slowed down. And in a world built on speed, that small act of stillness felt like rebellion. Maya opened her laptop again, this time not to argue or prove, but to write a short post. She titled it, Before You Believe, Pause. It wasn't flashy or dramatic, just honest. She hoped at least one person would read it and stop before sharing the next viral lie. When she hit publish, she felt something unexpected. Peace. Maybe the truth couldn't compete with the noise, but it didn't have to. It just needed people willing to protect it. Outside, The sunlight brightened the cafe windows, washing the tables in gold. The morning rush began and life moved on. But for Maya, Derek, and Lena, something had changed. They had found clarity in a storm of confusion. Proof that even in a noisy world, truth could still be found if someone cared enough to look for it. The fake headline finally disappeared from the trending list 3 days later. It didn't vanish because people learned the truth. It vanished because something new took its place. Another shocking post, another wave of outrage. The internet moved on, just like it always did. But in Maplewood, the small cafe that had been the center of so much debate stayed quieter than usual. The argument had burned out, leaving behind only thought. Maya sat by the window, grading papers between sips of coffee. The cafe buzzed softly. The sound of plates, footsteps, and the hiss of steamed milk. For once, no one was arguing about politics or rumors. People were simply talking about their kids, jobs, and weekend plans. It felt like a return to normal, but underneath that calm, something had shifted. Derek walked in, nodding to a few regulars. He looked tired but lighter somehow. He spotted Maya and joined her table. "Hey," he said. "You were right," she smiled. "About what?" "The headline. The fake story. The whole thing," he chuckled. "I spent the last few nights double-checking news before I shared it. Turns out most of what people send around isn't real. I used to think fact-checkers were overreacting, but now I get it." Maya closed her notebook. "That's a good start." "Yeah," he said, leaning back. "But it's weird. Once you start seeing how much noise there is online, you can't unsee it. It's everywhere. Politics, health, even random local stuff. It's like we built a machine that feeds on our attention." Lena, carrying a tray of pastries, overheard them. "You're not wrong," she said, placing the tray down. "My aunt still believes that fake story. I tried explaining, but she said she trusts what feels real, not what the media tells her." "How do you argue with feelings?" "You don't," Maya said. "You listen first. Sometimes people don't need proof. They need patience. Truth only works when people are calm enough to hear it." Derek nodded slowly. "That's hard to do in a world where everyone's yelling." The cafe door opened, letting in a gust of cool wind. A group of college students came in, laughing and chatting. One of them, Eli, the journalism student from before, waved when he saw Maya and Derek. "Hey, the truth team," he joked as he passed their table. Maya smiled. "How's school?" "Busy," he said. "But your talk the other day stuck with me. We actually had a debate about it in class, about how truth competes with speed. It's scary how much people prefer being first to being right." "That's the world now," Derek said. "Everyone's running. No one's checking where they're going." Eli nodded. "Our professor said something that hit me. The faster information spreads, the shorter its life. That's why lies burn bright and die fast. But the truth, it lasts." Maya liked that. "The truth lasts," she repeated quietly. When Eli left, the cafe fell into an easy rhythm again. The morning light poured through the window, painting the tables gold. Outside, people passed by, phones in hand, heads down, scrolling. Inside, the three of them sat still, not to escape the world, but to understand it. Derek broke the silence. "You know what bothers me?" he said. "Not that the story was fake, but that it didn't matter. People moved on like nothing happened. No apology, no correction. It's like truth doesn't even have consequences anymore." "That's the danger," Maya said. "When people stop caring whether something is true, everything becomes a game. And once truth becomes optional, trust disappears." Lena sighed. "Maybe that's why everyone's so angry all the time. We don't know who to believe, so we just stop believing anyone." Maya nodded. "Distrust is easy. Understanding takes work." Derek stirred his coffee absent-mindedly. "You know, I used to think conversations like this didn't matter, but now I think they do. Maybe it's not about fixing the whole system. Maybe it's about small rooms like this, people talking face-to-face instead of screen-to-screen." "That's exactly it," Maya said. "Real change doesn't start with big speeches or viral posts. It starts with small honesty. One person deciding to think before reacting. It's slow, but it's real." Outside, a delivery truck honked. Inside, someone laughed. Life kept moving, steady and ordinary. Yet, something about that ordinary felt precious now. Like they'd rediscovered something simple but powerful. Awareness. After a pause, Lena leaned against the counter. "Do you ever think we'll go back to how it was? You know, when people read the news, trusted it, and didn't question everything?" Maya thought for a moment. "Maybe not. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's better to question. As long as we do it with care, not anger." Derek smiled faintly. "So not blind trust, but mindful trust." "Exactly," she said. "We can't stop the flood of information, but we can choose how to swim through it." For a while, they just sat there, watching people come and go. The world outside didn't change, but their way of seeing it had. The noise still existed. The headlines, the outrage, the endless scrolling. But it didn't control them anymore. They had learned to pause, to breathe, to think. Later that afternoon, as Maya packed her things, Derek said, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm deleting half my news apps. I'll keep 1 or 2 real ones, and the rest can go." "I'd rather read 1 good article than 20 lies," Maya smiled. "That's progress." Lena added, "I think I'll start asking my customers where they get their news. Not to argue, and just to talk. People open up when you ask instead of assume." "Exactly," Maya said. "That's how we start rebuilding trust. With questions, not accusations." As they left the cafe, the sun was setting, painting the sky in soft gold and orange. The streetlights flickered on one by one, and the sound of evening traffic filled the air. Derek walked beside Maya, hands in his jacket pockets. "You know," he said, "that fake story might have been nonsense, but it made me realize something." "What's that?" "That truth isn't something you find once. It's something you keep searching for, every day." Maya smiled. "And that search is what keeps us human." They reached the corner where their paths split. Derek waved goodbye, heading toward his truck. Maya walked toward the library, her mind calm but alert, her thoughts clear. She didn't feel powerless anymore. The world was loud, yes, but she'd learned that peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from awareness. Back inside the cafe, Lena flipped the closed sign and turned off the lights. The quiet felt comforting. She thought about everything that had happened. The debates, the tension, the lessons. The world outside still spun fast, but in her small corner, truth had found a place to rest, and somewhere across Maplewood, people kept scrolling, talking, believing, doubting, living their lives between headlines and reality. The fake story had disappeared, but the questions it raised lingered. Who do we trust? How do we know? What do we share? Maya, Derek, and Lena didn't have all the answers, but they had something better: awareness, balance, and the will to think before believing. Because in a world that runs on speed, slowing down to seek truth is an act of quiet courage. And sometimes, courage doesn't look like a fight. It looks like 3 people in a small-town cafe learning to listen again.